Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won.
Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none.
And by union what we will can be accomplished still.
Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
Good morning, and welcome to this online service of Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church in Cordova, Tennessee. I am the Reverend Beth Lefever, pleased and privileged to serve as the minister of this congregation, and I am so glad that you were able to join us in worship this morning. Our opening words are by theologian Philip A. Porter. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Let us be in worship together. Now David Cooke will light our chalice.
For our chalice lighting, I've chosen the poem "This Is My Song" by Lloyd Stone. The text is also the first two stanzas of the hymn of the same name in our UU hymnal. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating, with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on cloverleaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. Please raise your voice with me in affirming our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Today's story is Kamala's and Maya's Big Idea, written by Meena Harris. Meena is Kamala Harris's niece, Maya's daughter. You know what should be out there, Kamala? Asked her sister Maya. Us, said Maya. A slide, said Kamala. And a swing, Maya added. A playground, they shouted together. Kamala and Maya had an idea. It was a very good idea, and a very big idea. They were going to need help. Wouldn't it be great if there was a playground in the courtyard, Maya said. That does sound nice, Mommy agreed. How can we make that happen, Kamala asked. Well, I suppose the first step would be to ask the landlord, the person who owns the building. So Kamala wrote a letter and Maya drew a picture. and they went to see the landlord to discuss their idea. The landlord thought about it for less than a second. I don't think so. No. That was not the answer they wanted, but they weren't ready to give up. That night, the sisters tried to think of ways to turn a no into a yes. They asked the older kids in the building if they wanted a playground in the courtyard. Did they? Of course they did. And they had ideas too. Let's have a teeter-totter and a basketball hoop and flowers. So Kamala wrote a longer letter, and they went to see the landlord together. Dear landlord, right now the courtyard of our building is empty and no one uses it. If there were swings, kids could fly high. If there was a sandbox, kids could build. If there was a slide, kids could go so far so fast. Can you build it, please? The landlord thought about it for less than 5 seconds. A project this big is expensive. We don't have the money for that. Do you parents know you're here? This was not the answer they wanted. But Kamala was not ready to give up. If we ask our parents to do it all ourselves, can we fix up the courtyard? The landlord thought about that for a whole 10 seconds. Finally, he shrugged. If you can do it yourself, sure. This wasn't exactly the answer they wanted, but it was a start. The kids all spoke to their parents about their ideas for the courtyard. They hung up posters and knocked on neighbors' doors, but they got the same answers from everyone. I'm sorry. Wow, that is a big job. Wish I could help. Which they knew meant no, no, no. But then Mr. Green stopped to talk. I work construction and I could maybe get some scrap lumber and some sand for a sandbox. Really? Kamala said. Yes, exclaimed Maya. Okay, I'll try. It wasn't a yes, but right now, maybe was the sweetest word they had ever heard. Maybe gave them hope. The next weekend, maybe turned into yes. The kids all helped measure and Mr. Green cut the boards. Then they sanded and hammered and sanded some more. Then came the actual sand. They were all thanking Mr. Green when Miss Lopez stopped to talk. I work at a garage. Maybe they have an extra tire for a teeter-totter. Another maybe. In the weeks that followed, lots of I don't knows turned into maybes and then yeses. No one could do everything, but everyone could do something. Kamala and Maya wanted everyone to celebrate the new playground, so they made another big poster inviting their neighbors to a potluck party. There were hot dogs and hummus, spicy chicken and potato salad, strawberries and brownies and lemonade. Mrs. Flores set up a sprinkler for the kids to run through. Mr. Green brought the music. Kamala admired the new playground, but she noticed there was still one thing missing. No one knew how to make a slide, but Ms. Flores knew where they might buy one. I teach at Emerson Elementary, and they're redoing their playground. Maybe we could buy the old slide. This was a different kind of maybe. How can we afford that maybe? But now everyone was trying to find a way to turn that maybe into a yes. These brownies are delicious. Maybe we could have a bake sale. We can all bring toys and books and have a sidewalk sale. No one could do everything, but everyone could contribute something. When the slide arrived at last, Maya and Kamala got the first ride. The landlord was impressed. I want to shake your hands, girls, he said. You did a good job. You all did a good job. Kamala and Maya had an idea. It was a very good idea and a very big idea. And with a lot of help, they made it happen. Her Hooray for Kamala and Maya! Hooray for the Sisters! What's next, Kamala? Kamala, looking up, said, I'm wondering what the view is like from the roof.
The mission of our church is to celebrate diversity, grow community, nurture spirituality, and promote justice. We, as members and friends of Neshoba, embrace those ideals and work hard to cultivate and uphold them. Our morning offering will now be gratefully shared and received. My first reading is by author Ursula Le Guin. How does one hate a country or love one? I know people. I know towns, farms, hills, rivers, rocks. I know how the sun at sunset in autumn falls on the side of a certain plowland in the hills. But what is the sense of giving boundary to all of that? Giving a name and ceasing to love where the name ceases to apply? What is the love of one's country? Is it hate of one's uncountry? Then it's not a good thing. My second reading is by French philosopher Albert Camus. I should like to be able to love my country and still love justice. And finally, by Oliver S. York, contributing opinion writer for the Crimson Review. I want us to reclaim the flag and reclaim patriotism. I want us to redefine the American flag as representing the promise, as of yet unrealized, of a society where everyone in our community can become a civic leader, regardless of citizenship, identity, or age. To be a civic actor is to engage in critique. And as much as we might like to joke about the coast seceding from the rest of the country, I want the flag to remind us of the responsibility we have to listen and engage with thoughtful, compassionate people from different parts of our country, and of their responsibility to do the same with us. American pride is for all of us. Even if we diverge in the way we talk about our values, we simply cannot let one political party own patriotism. Tomorrow is Flag Day, and it has become a complicated observance for me. And I don't believe I am alone in that. I remember when I first became aware of the American flag and the powerful emotion it carried for U.S. citizens. It was in the first grade when we were instructed to rise and stand beside our desks, facing the flag in the corner of the classroom, while placing our hands over our hearts and saying together the words we had been taught. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was excited. It was a momentous occasion, I knew that, though I had little understanding of what it was all about. But I was excited to be a part of it, an obviously important and meaningful ritual of belonging to my classmates and my school and to some vague notion of country. It was as though I had just been admitted to the larger world, beyond my immediate family and my classmates, and I was so very pleased and proud and impressed. My class said the pledge daily, first thing, and so did my second grade class and my third and my fourth, all the way on up through the sixth grade, after which we were promoted to the far larger junior high or middle school, where we seemingly discontinued reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. At least I don't remember saying it after that. We did sing the national anthem on occasion, and that too was somewhat exciting, reminding us that we are part of a much larger community, a much bigger story. But nothing could quite compare with those first patriotic days in grade school, when we rose every day to pledge our innocent allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Eventually, it became largely routine and no longer particularly special, the love of country, patriotism, the understanding that we were exceptional among nations. I did not question it. Even during the days of the Vietnam War, when many young people were dying in a war that few of us understood, and many others were hotly protesting that war. I was, as I am prone to say, still my father's Republican daughter back then, and was confused but disapproving of all the turmoil surrounding the war. Both of my brothers served in the military, one in Vietnam and the other in the Navy band. And though I was concerned for them and others, I still was not much involved in it all, either in support or protest. I am sorry for that now. I regret it. I am ashamed of it. But we evolve as we are able. And there are reasons I was not yet able to be the person I would eventually become. Who did I become? I slowly and then rapidly became a social and religious liberal, if we are to apply labels. I defied my parents to some extent in order to embrace civil rights, women's rights, and peace, justice, and equality for all. Martin Luther King mentored me, so to speak, as did others, along with many past and current sheroes of the women's movement. I discovered and became active in the quite liberal United Church of Christ, where I rubbed elbows with many experienced liberal folks, and eventually I found my way to Unitarian Universalism. Throughout all of my growth into what I now consider my authentic self, I remained somewhat uncertain of my feelings toward the American flag and what it stood for. I was becoming aware of the massive injustices that were and have long been a part of the country's fabric. I wondered just how I was to love a country where so many people were impoverished and discriminated against. I wondered what it would feel like to recite the pledge if I were Black or hungry or seemingly invisible, as so many are in our culture. And yet, still, I embraced the ideals for which we stood as a nation, as proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now, for sure, these all-important words were male-centric completely, but I was used to that. Everything was male-centric in my early years. And also true was the fact that these rights were credited to a creator that I was becoming less sure I believed in. But the idea that all are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, well, that is what I embraced as the American way, however imperfectly it was realized. It wasn't until 9/11 that I began to reject the American flag as everyone else was pinning them to their lapels. I strongly disagreed with our country's response to that vicious, violent attack, and in deep sorrow, I made up black ribbon lapel pins and gave them out as signs of our grief, only to realize that it was the American flag people wanted to pin to their lapels. I worked to get over my surprise and to understand their feelings. I successfully tempered my own feelings of despair that we had defaulted to war and began to appreciate who we were and what we were about and what our symbols meant. It was hard work. But from then on, I vacillated in my love for flag and country, feeling positive with some administrations in power and feeling negative and hopeless with others. But it was during the last presidential election that my wise and highly evolved Elkhart friend, Judy, guided me through the confusion. She told me they had put out a presidential candidate's sign, you can guess which one, in their front yard, along with an American flag. I gasped. She and her husband, Rudy, live on a busy country road in a very conservative part of southern Michigan, actually, having moved there from Elkhart some years ago. It was a busy road, but isolated enough for passers-by to do mischief if they so chose. Judy was aware of the risk, but she said, I am not letting the other side take my patriotism or my flag from me. It was a dawning moment for me. Though it took some processing, I finally came to understand and agree. This flag and this country belong to us all. No one party has dibs, nor does any one ideological stance. As a nation, we are currently hugely divided and angry with one another, but nevertheless, we are all in it together. As Woody Guthrie's song says, this land is your land. This land is my land. This land was made for you and me. That's a sentiment I can get behind. This land, this country, and its ideals, however tentatively held, belongs to us all. We've a long way to go in making that real, but it's a journey well worth traveling and a goal well worth the proud and emotional waving of our American flag. And now let us move into a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer in spoken word and a brief time of silence. Spoken word is by Black Elk, 1863 to 1950, a holy man in the Oglala Lakota Sioux tribe. Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing, in the sacred manner, the shape of all things of the Spirit, and the shapes as they must live together, like one being. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight. And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. Amen. And until next week, blessed, blessed be.
When I lift my voice